Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Von Biggs, and let's queer up gay culture. Polyamory terms defined by experts. As more people embrace ethical non-monogamy, understanding the terms and trends that define these relationships is essential for empathy, education, and equity. Cosmopolitan UK recently published a glossary of polyamory terms that helps readers navigate the diverse and intentional world of consensual non-monogamy. These terms are not just vocabulary, they are tools for communication, identity, and emotional clarity. Take metamour, for example. This refers to your partner's partner, someone you may or may not have a relationship with. Then there is compersion, a term that describes the joy one feels when their partner experiences pleasure with someone else. It is the opposite of jealousy and the cornerstone of many polyamorous relationships. Other terms include polycule, which maps the network of interconnected relationships, and solo polyamory, where individuals maintain autonomy while engaging in multiple romantic connections. These terms reflect a shift towards intentional, transparent, and emotional intelligent relationship structures. The article reminds us that language helps us make sense of our relationships. It gives us the tools to express boundaries, desires, and identities. And in the world where love does not always follow the traditional path, these tools are more important than ever. Recent data shows that 4% of Americans currently identify as polyamorous. Between 20 and 25% say they are open to have and experimented with non-monogamy. Over 2/3 of polyamorous people report high relationship satisfaction. Many cite emotional variety, personal growth, and deeper communication as key benefits. Perhaps the most telling sign change comes from Generation Z. A recent Tinder report found that over 40% of Gen Z users are open to non-monogamous relationships. This generation is redefining intimacy, prioritizing emotional honesty, and rejecting rigid relationship norms. The openness signals a cultural shift towards more inclusive and flexible models of love. Despite the emotional richness of polyamory, challenges remain. Nearly 50% of polyamorous individuals report experiencing stigma or discrimination. But the tide is turning. A younger generation embrace new relationship structures. Polyamory is emerging not just as a lifestyle, but as a movement rooted in authenticity, consent, and connection. Understanding polyamory is not just about knowing the lingo, it is about honoring the humanity behind it. From Cosmopolitan UK's glossary to the latest data on relationship trends, the message is clear. Love is expansive, language matters, and the future of relationships is being shaped by those brave enough to live them authentically. So someone for me who came from, my very first relationship was a polyamory relationship, and it was a very unique dynamic. I am one of these, I'm a studier. I love to study and read, and my favorite book, and I'll say it on here, is still, to this day, The Ethical Slut. It is the best book ever written. If you ever want to be in a relationship, anybody out there in a relationship should get that book.
I've heard
because
of it.
Gets you to your core. It will read you to, like it's reading you. Mm-hmm. And it really explains jealousy and communication, and really talks about expanding those boundaries. And yeah, it talks about the leather community. It talks about the kink community, but it's a fascinating book. And when I'm looking through the terms, compersion was probably my number one go-to, because in my partnerships that I had, I really got joy in hearing from them about their experiences. I'm not one that wanted to sit back and watch, but I enjoyed hearing how they were satisfied from having an experience with someone.
Got it.
Knowing that at the end of the day, they were back home in my bed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And listen, love is not a one shoe fits all, right? It's not like one way to do things, right? Maybe you're in a monogamous relationship and this makes no sense to you and you're like, oh, I'm too jealous. I can't even, right? But then there's others where this makes more sense to them, right? And I got to read Ethical Slut because somebody told me that it really gets down to the nitty gritty as to why you're so jealous of certain things, right? And if you're able to break through that, then maybe you and your partner will be happier. I mean, I know for me, if my wife smothered me, she would not be my wife, right? Because I can't deal with that personally, but I'm also very jealous. So having another person in a relationship, they would have to like me more. And obviously that's not how things go. You know what I mean? It's not cut and dry that way, So I love, what was the polycule? What was it? Polycule?
Polycure.
Why you got?
Because you added your little Latin twang to it.
Yeah.
Polyculo, lot of butt.
Yeah.
Polyculo, multiple butt.
Okay, but that would mean like the network of people that you're in that
Right.
are also on the same page.
Right. Exactly. Because that means that, because you could have those multiple relationships, but they could be in with other,
Yeah.
poly relationships as well. Because it's not necessarily they all live together. In some cases they do, but no, it's a network of consent.
Okay.
And that's the way I like to look at it, is consent.
I'm super interested. I mean, not because I'm interested for me, but I love that we are able to give a space to whatever you like in our community. You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, that's why I think that more people are probably interested in having a relationship like this, but they're afraid to ask the questions and have the conversation with their better half, you know? And you might get the answers that you didn't expect. You never know, right?
It's about being open and honest
Yes.
with your partner and in the relationship, and really authentically asking yourself, like, what really makes you happy? What is it about this? I have to look at this phrase, consensual non-monogamy. I didn't realize that it was such a very spectrum of different terms,
Right.
So there's many different ways to define it. I was so limited with it's either an open or a closed relationship. And that's where I kind of thought it would be, but there's more to it than that, as we all know. So it's just where you're comfortable at. I would think.
I'm glad Vaughn brought the book Ethical Slut. If you didn't bring it, I will bring it up. I've actually quoted it in one of my homilies before. It is very educational. What we do. It's about consent. As you mentioned, communication. As a minister, my whole goal is: are you happy with who you are? Does it hurt anybody else? If it doesn't hurt anybody else, it's ethical.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
As an health educator, communication is key.
Yeah.
Talk to your people.
And
know
terms
they
are key,
Who
to
is
know the
important.
verbiage, right? To know what the terms are. You don't have to be in the community to respect the community, right? I mean,
Yeah, my husband read The Ethical Slut, and when he came out, he was like, "This is so good." And I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" He was like, "This is such a good book." And then I read it. I was like, "The Ethical Slut." I was like, "That." I
Get
guess
out
I
of my
have to-
head type of a thing, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
I was like, okay, an ethical slut, got it, check. But also on the polyamory and the terms, I mean, education is key for our community. And just this weekend, one of my throuple friends got married. So shout out to Shane, Nate, and Chad in Charlotte, North Carolina. They got married, and it was such a beautiful, I wasn't physically there, but I saw it through their social media, and it was such a beautiful ceremony of acceptance and true love. And this gives me a little bit more understanding of what that relationship looks like. But congrats, Shane, Nate, Chad, and Jacob. I guess I'll read the book when I get home.
wow. That is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.